Torn dress, broken heart, and a ride that changed everything. The snow was falling so hard that night it looked like the sky itself was breaking apart. On an empty road, under the cold glow of headlights, a barefoot woman in a torn silver dress walked alone, clutching a pair of broken heels in one hand and the last pieces of her dignity in the other. Her mascara had mixed with tears, her hands were trembling, and every step she took on the frozen road felt like punishment. Then a stranger slowed his old car beside her, and neither of them knew that this ride would change two broken lives forever. If you believe kindness can save lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, take 1 second right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. Daniel had not planned to be on that road that night. He was a 42-year-old mechanic who worked late shifts fixing other people's problems while quietly carrying his own. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife to illness. Since then, his small apartment had become a silent place filled with untouched picture frames, folded blankets, and memories that never stopped speaking. He kept moving because stopping meant feeling everything at once. So he worked long hours, drove aimlessly at night, and told everyone he was fine. That night he was driving home after helping a customer whose truck had broken down outside town. Snow covered the road, the radio whispered softly, and Daniel's eyes were heavy with exhaustion. Then his headlights caught the figure of a woman walking slowly through the storm. At first he thought she might be drunk or confused, but when he came closer, he saw the truth in one glance. She was shivering violently. Her dress was torn near the hem and shoulder. One side of her hair was tangled from wind and tears. Her feet were red from the cold. She was not careless. She was hurting. Daniel rolled down the window and asked if she needed help. She stepped back immediately, fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that comes from being disappointed too many times. Daniel understood that look. He raised both hands from the steering wheel so she could see them clearly and told her he only wanted to help because no one should be walking alone in weather like this. For a moment she said nothing. Snow gathered on her shoulders like ash. Then she nodded once and climbed into the passenger seat. The heat from the car vents made her hands shake even harder. Daniel handed her an old winter coat from the back seat. She wrapped it around herself tightly, as if warmth itself might disappear if she didn't hold it firmly enough. Her name was Elena. She was 28 years old and had moved to the city 2 years earlier with dreams that looked beautiful from far away and impossible up close. She had worked 2 jobs, saved money, and tried to build a better life after growing up in a home where shouting was more common than love. She wanted peace more than riches, respect more than luxury. A few months earlier, she met a man named Victor. He was polished, wealthy, charming in public, and admired by everyone who only knew his smile. He promised security, comfort, and a future. Elena wanted to believe that kindness could wear expensive shoes too, but behind closed doors, Victor was controlling, cruel, and obsessed with making her feel small. He criticized her clothes, her voice, her friends, her dreams. He called it love whenever he took something from her confidence. Tonight had been the final humiliation. At a grand party filled with music and glittering lights, Victor mocked her in front of guests, accused her of embarrassing him, and when she tried to leave, he threw her coat outside into the snow and told her to walk home as she was so independent. No one stopped him. No one followed her, so she walked. Daniel listened without interrupting. Some pain does not need advice first. It needs space. He asked where he could take her. Elena hesitated. There was no family nearby, no friend she trusted enough to call at midnight, no safe place waiting with lights on. She finally whispered that she didn't know. Daniel felt something inside him crack open. Grief had made him lonely, but loneliness had not made him unkind. He told her he knew a 24-hour diner on the highway where they could sit, warm up, eat something, and decide the next step. They drove in silence through the storm. At the diner, the waitress brought hot coffee, soup, and a basket of bread. Elena stared at the steam rising from the bowl as though it was something sacred. She hadn't eaten since morning. Daniel looked away to give her privacy while she devoured the meal. Sometimes dignity returns one spoonful at a time. When she finished, color had returned slightly to her face. Daniel called an old friend named Maria, who managed a women's shelter in town. Maria answered on the second ring. By sunrise, Elena had a bed, clean clothes, and a locked door behind which no one could reach her. Before leaving, Daniel gave Maria his card and said if Elena needed work someday, his garage always needed honest hands. Weeks passed. Daniel assumed that was the end of the story. Some people pass through your life like weather, intense, unforgettable, and brief. Then one morning, the bell above the garage door rang. Elena stood there in jeans, work boots, and borrowed confidence. She asked if the job offer had been real. Daniel handed her a pair of gloves and pointed toward a dusty old car that needed cleaning. She worked harder than anyone there. At first she spoke little. Loud noises startled her. If a customer raised his voice, even jokingly, her shoulders stiffened. But day by day, routine began to heal what chaos had damaged. She learned inventory, scheduling, customer service, and basic repairs. Daniel taught her how engines made sense when people often did not. Machines failed for reasons. Broken parts could be replaced. Damage could be diagnosed. Human hearts were more complicated. Elena started laughing again in small, unexpected moments. Once when grease landed on Daniel's forehead and he spent 10 minutes unaware. Once when a dog stole a mechanic's sandwich and sprinted triumphantly across the lot. Once simply because sunlight came through the open garage door after days of rain. Months later, the shelter helped her get a small apartment. It was tiny, but every object inside belonged to peace. She bought a plant for the window, then dishes, then curtains she chose herself. Each ordinary thing felt like victory. Daniel changed too. For the first time since losing his wife, he began coming home before midnight. He cooked real meals. He cleaned the dust from old frames. He stopped driving empty roads to avoid his own silence. Elena never tried to replace what he had lost. She simply reminded him that life still had room for warmth. People in town noticed the garage becoming brighter somehow. Customers stayed longer. Staff joked more. Even the walls seemed less tired. But healing is never a straight road. One afternoon Victor arrived. His expensive coat, polished shoes, and rehearsed smile entered the garage before his words did. He asked to speak with Elena privately. Daniel stepped forward and calmly said she could decide for herself. Elena's hands shook, but this time she did not shrink. Victor apologized with practiced elegance. He claimed stress had changed him. He said he missed her. He said she owed their history another chance. Elena listened quietly, then looked around the garage, the place where she rebuilt herself among oil stains, laughter, effort, and honest people. Then she said no, not loudly, not angrily, just clearly. Victor's face changed when charm failed him. He muttered insults, then left. His tires sprayed gravel as he sped away. Elena went into the back room and cried, not because she wanted him back, but because saying no to what once controlled you can feel like tearing chains out of your own skin. Daniel sat outside the door and waited until she was ready. That evening, snow began falling again. The first snow of winter. Elena stepped outside the garage and looked at the sky. Last year's snow had meant abandonment. Tonight it meant survival. A year later, Daniel and Elena were not a fairy tale couple from a movie. Life had taught them to move slowly and honestly, but they